Hello everybody and welcome to Star Wars On High. Thank you for stopping by. We are back with my review of episode 5 of the Ahsoka series, and I really needed to take my time to organize my thoughts regarding what is currently being seen as one of the best episodes of Star Wars ever, and I truly believe that. Watching this episode was everything I could ever want, and I am still blown away with the fact that we got to see this happen. But let's dive right in. Really though, from the start, the opening of this episode nearly had me in tears. Hera and Jason land on Cetos to try to locate Sabine and Ahsoka, and all they find is Hu Yang holding Sabine's helmet. And it's the saddest thing ever. All he just says is, "I told them to stick together, but they never listen." We're not even 5 minutes into the episode, and that's enough to bring me to tears. I know technically droids don't have any emotions, but they really try to make it seem that way to give more life to the characters, and seeing Hu Yang in almost an inconsolable state was just too much for me. You gotta think, he's 25,000 years old, and I can't imagine how many times he's asked Jedi to stick together, and they just ignore his wishes. And now with so few Jedi left, he really wanted to make sure they were safe. Of course, us as the viewers know they are still alive, but it still hurts to see it play out. It all gets better though, as we then proceed to see some of the best Star Wars to date. We're back in the world between worlds, or at least I think that's where we are, and Anakin states that he is here to complete Ahsoka's training, and boy is she in for a wild ride. Anakin pulls his lightsaber on Ahsoka and the duel commences, and they really didn't skip a beat with Hayden's return. His moves are just as smooth as when we saw him in Revenge of the Sith, and seeing his fighting style in live action against Ahsoka is a treat. It's so smooth and fluid, and you can tell they really wanted to give Hayden justice, and they did it perfectly. That's not the only surprise though, as back on the surface of Cetos, Jason's force abilities seem to be ramping up a bit. He keeps noticing something about the water, and keeps asking his mom to listen to the waves with him. Not because he's hearing the ocean, but because he can hear lightsabers clashing. He can hear Ahsoka fighting Anakin. And I really loved this scene because they don't follow the typical ignore the kid and his findings trope that most movies and TV shows do. Hera knows to trust her son. His father was Kanan. He was a Jedi, so if Jason feels or hears something, she knows better than to ignore it. And with that, she orders Carson to get his squad over the ocean at low altitude, which also comes with some funny dialogue as he asks what's going on. Hu Yang explains that Jason's father was a Jedi, and Carson just accepts it outright, like, who am I to argue with that logic? It's just the little jokes in there that get a good laugh out of me. Meanwhile, Ahsoka and Anakin are still going at it, and it's still incredible to watch, but this is where we get into some trippy Star Wars territory that I really love. With a slash of his lightsaber, Anakin sends Ahsoka through her training, landing in what's almost a flashback. We go right into season 3 of the Clone Wars, younger Ahsoka, and Hayden as Matt Lantern's Anakin. He looks perfect, just absolutely perfect. They even managed to get the hair right, and watching it just blows my mind. Now, I am a little rusty in my Clone Wars knowledge, so I'm not sure if this was supposed to be Ryloth or not. I can see Twi'leks talking with Captain Rex, but I'm not sure that's enough to know where we are. But let's not glaze past the fact that we got live-action Captain Rex, and he also looks perfect. I'm a huge fan of Phase 1 clones. They are my favorite, so seeing them in live action and not as CG like in Attack of the Clones is everything I could ask for. Back on Cetos, Carson and Hera are still hard at work scanning the shoreline, and while there's not much to report here, we do get a very nice scene between Hera and Hu Yang, with Hu Yang basically explaining that people follow Hera because of what she stands for and how she goes about her actions. And Hera even gets a little information on Ahsoka's master, not even aware that they've met him before, only he was outright trying to kill them that time. I would love to see that play out later in the series, with Hera learning about Anakin and his downfall. I think that would make for an interesting moment. We gotta move back to Ahsoka's training though, as we get to relive the siege of Mandalore, and it is absolutely wild to see this too. We even get a little voice cameo from Tamira Morrison as Captain Rex. Shame we didn't get to see his face, but I'll take what we get. This is, however, when things get a little rocky. Ahsoka knows that everything that was in Anakin is in her, including everything that made him dangerous. And this really seems to get to Anakin as he lashes out, claiming that Ahsoka has learned nothing. And in return, Ahsoka is met with Darth Vader, coming at her full force, kicking her out of the vision and back into the world between worlds. This scene is probably one of my all-time favorites now. Watching Anakin walk through this cloud of smoke with flashes changing between himself and Vader are too perfect. And it almost acts like Ahsoka's PTSD from when she faced off against Vader on Malachor. She refuses to give into it though, refuses to become what her master did before her, disarming Vader and choosing to live. And in the words of Luke, it passed like a fleeting shadow. Vader closes his eyes and comes back as Anakin, saying, "There's hope for you yet," as the world between worlds starts to fall apart, going back to Ahsoka lying unconscious in the ocean. Just in time too, as Carson's team finds her and pulls her aboard the Ghost. The next morning, Ahsoka wakes and comes out to greet everyone, but we're still missing Sabine. So Ahsoka grabs half of the star map and pulls a Cal Kestis, using the Force to hear the memories surrounding the object, learning that Sabine is okay and was taken aboard the Eye of Sion by Balin. But how do they plan to get there? Without the star map and any coordinates whatsoever, they're pretty much stuck. And not only that, the New Republic fleet is about to show up to arrest Hera. They think she's disobeying orders and that Thrawn is 100% dead, but Hera has no proof to tell them otherwise and is running out of time. Thankfully, Ahsoka discovers a plan. A very off-the-wall plan, but it is a plan nonetheless. Following Sabine the same way they lost Ezra, travel by Purrgil. Ahsoka and Hera take off to fly into a pod of Purrgil where Ahsoka the White emerges from her ship and makes contact with one of the larger Purrgil. And with the help of the Force, it agrees to hold their ship in its mouth as it makes the jump to lightspeed. Only one problem: Ahsoka doesn't know where they're going. This is a last-ditch effort to make this happen, and it's either travel by Purrgil or just wait for Thrawn to return and bring mass destruction to the galaxy, leaving us once again to wait until next week's episode. Overall, just a 1 million out of 10 episode. It was so much fun to see Hayden again and still looking great as ever. The de-aging in episode 4 may have looked a little strange, but he looks flawless in this episode. Very well done effects. I also really love Jason's role in this episode. None of it feels forced per se, but I believe everything he says, and I love that everyone respects Jason and uses the information he gives them. It's really a great dynamic. He's really going to turn into a very interesting character later down the line. Everything about this episode looked incredible though, and I'm very happy with what we got to experience. I have several thoughts on the World Between Worlds that I may cover in another video, because part of me feels like it wasn't the same World Between Worlds, but I'm not too sure on that. The whole sequence, however, was definitely supposed to be Ahsoka's Dagobah cave moment, the Force guiding her to the answers she needed to have in order to move forward. This episode was massive for Ahsoka's character growth, and we really see that in the way her demeanor changes by the end of the episode. But overall, this has been my favorite episode of Star Wars to date, and I'm so looking forward to what tricks they're going to pull next for the remaining episodes. This will easily be a moment that fans carry on for years to come, but what were your thoughts on episode 5? How did you feel about Anakin's role, and will we finally see Thrawn next week? Let us know all of your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you to everyone who stuck around to this point in the video, and we hope to see you again very soon.